Hello and welcome here to TalkFCB and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, where we are in very, very good spirits indeed. It was a much needed win over Atletico Madrid. We got it and now we are going to talk about it. We got response and reaction from Hansi Flick and a real insight into so many of the wonderful individual performances we saw yesterday. We also, though, unfortunately have an update on injuries there. There's a few concerns in this Barcelona squad, and we also need to provide a full update on the Ronald Araujo situation with the team right now, along with Deco today, who's had a few interesting things to say about the January transfer window, as we're also going to be discussing and debating Robert Lewandowski'S future at the club. So that is all on the way for you. Get yourselves ready. And let's do this. Because make no mistake about it, guys, last night was absolutely crucial for everybody at Barca. You know, it did just alleviate a lot of the pressure that was starting to build on this team. And I think a real good look at what it meant to the team as a whole, and especially the coaching staff. The reaction there to Ferran's goal that basically put the game beyond any doubt at all. There was really jubilant celebrations on the sidelines. And what I love seeing was that smile on Hansi Flick's face. You know, we saw him after the Alaves game. He was struggling. He was really coming to terms, trying to, with what he was seeing from this team. And to see him then smiling against Atleti, jubilant, that's what it's all about. That felt absolutely awesome. So glad that we were able to get this win, that we were able to deliver in a big game, especially at the Camp Nou as well. It just felt that bit different, you know, really nice to do it again inside of our own stadium. And Flick said after the game, I think our performance tonight was on another level. He said, we played against a great team. We fought together. That's what I saw today. It was a great, fantastic performance. We gained more control and we created more space. And I think there was real emphasis there on Flick saying, we fought together, because that's what it felt like yesterday. It was one of those performances, we haven't seen too many of them, where we did play as a team. You know, we worked together on the ball, off the ball, everybody there was united as one. That's what we need to do. It was about getting back to basics. It was about going back to the fundamentals of what we were doing last season, and that starts and ends with hard work and doing it all as one. And Flick did say that the defeats against PSG, Real Madrid, Chelsea, these are all big games that unfortunately Barca have lost, but he said those are things of the past now. He said today we saw a great performance. We will see if this is a turning point. But he said, I do think it's one of our best matches of the season. I really like what I saw in the 90 minutes. We've taken a step forward now. But now we've got to go and play Betis at the weekend in La Liga. They are also a great team. So there is a feeling of, let's try and put those negative displays, those disappointing performances, let's put them behind us. Let's move on from all of that negativity and let's make this a turning point. But at the same time, we've achieved nothing. You know, we're very happy with the win here. We're very delighted to beat Atletico Madrid. But now it's on to the next game, and we do have tricky fixtures. We do come up against some top teams who are going to play in different ways against us. So that's a big game on Saturday against Betis. We've got to be ready for that. We've got to work in the same way. It's no good just doing it now for one game. You know, pulling together and just making that effort for one solitary game to get a big win. No, we need consistency now. We need to set this blueprint going forward. This is how you play. This is how you work. And that needs to now follow into this next game, which will also be a test for us. Because I do have to say that I was mightily relieved after the game. You know, we all saw Pedri go down. We all saw him struggling. And we were all just thinking, please no. You know, this has been a great night. It's been a great win. We don't want Pedri to be injured. That would be an absolute nightmare. But luckily, Flick came out straight away and said, look, he's okay. He's going to be fine. Everybody just relax. He's a little bit tired, of course. It's not long since he's made his return. He's played some really intense games since that time. But he said he's an exceptional player. I am happy that he didn't need time to find his previous level again, to get back to the best level from Pedri. He said we saw it on Saturday, we saw it today. He managed the connection between defence and attack so well. And that's what I would like to say about Pedri. This guy, he does his own thing. He needs no one to show his quality. Because a lot of times, you know, in this Barcelona team and outside of Barca as well, you often hear with certain players, oh, you know, they need the right foundations, they need the right conditions in order to show their best level. Maybe you need a player here, maybe you need somebody next to them there for them to be at their best. Pedri doesn't need none of that. Pedri's not relying on anybody. If he wants to show his quality, he will. And he does. Every single time. No matter what the game is, no matter what the game conditions are, no matter what the circumstances are, he will stand up and he will deliver. And that's Pedri. You know, he is absolutely unbelievable and just so essential for this team, because the other sign of such a unique and top player is every time then he goes off, and you see it yesterday in the game where he starts it, he plays brilliantly, the team are ticking along nicely, he comes off, we're not the same. We are nowhere near the same team. He is the hub, he is the nucleus, he is the heartbeat of this team. And I just love him. You know, I absolutely love Pedri. He is everything that you would want, everything that you would need from a Barcelona player, and thankfully he's okay. We're going to see him again at the weekend, and I have no doubt he's going to be in top form. Speaking, though, about top form, and speaking about finding your level as soon as you come back, you know, not needing time to sort of get up to speed and get yourself back into things again, well, it's exactly the same situation with Raphinha. He has returned to this team, and he has transformed this team. It's as simple as that there. Our attack, since Raphinha came back, has gone to another level. And his impact on this team, it could not be clearer. And I think this goes back as well to last season when, of course, we were giving him huge credit. But I think maybe towards the end of the season, he didn't probably get the credit that he deserved for the season that he had, for the campaign that he had. And you know what? Barca fans, they're not the only people that feel that way. They're not the only people here who think, you know what, Raphinha, he's still underrated. He's still going under the radar because, listen to what Diego Simeone said. He said, I have no idea how Raphinha didn't win the Ballon d'Or. He said he's an incredible player. He can play everywhere, as a winger, as a midfielder, a striker, even a wing-back. He said he can score, he creates, he presses, he runs. And Simeone literally said, I love Raphinha. And you can understand that too, by the way, because he also seems like a player that Simeone would love to have. I mean, with that work ethic, with what he's able to do with the ball and also without it, Simeone would absolutely love a player there like Raphinha. But no, we got him and we're keeping him. By the way, Mattia Almani, do not get any ideas. But no, seriously, Raphinha's amazing. He is absolutely next level there. And it's just so important right now to have Pedri and Raphinha. You know, the difference that they have made to this team since returning, it's night and day. You know, we are nowhere near without them. We are revolutionised with them. So it's very important here that we have them in the team, that we look after them, though, that we don't, you know, overexpose them to too many minutes all at once. Because, yeah, without them, it really does hurt us. So we've got to look after those players. They are so key. They've proven that now. And it's great to have them back. We can start to kick on. We can start to level up our performances now that we have this amount of quality back. However, we do need to move on to talk about Dani Olmo. Now, this for me, it's so frustrating. It is so, you know, infuriating almost. Because last night, I thought he was brilliant. Before the game, I said, please, Dani Olmo, can you perform in a big game? Can you give us one of those big game performances to really elevate your level? And he was doing that. You know, he's picking up the ball in brilliant areas. Atletico Madrid, they couldn't really keep tabs on him. They couldn't really understand where Olmo was going to pop up, you know, how he was going to affect the game. That's why he was able to win a penalty kick. You know, they didn't really know quite how to mark him, how to shut him down. And of course, the goal that he scores, it's a brilliant finish. It really is. The ball into him there. He's inside the box. He doesn't have a lot of room. He doesn't have a lot of time as well to sort of adjust here. And to put that past Oblak, you know, we saw how good he was in this game, how difficult he is to beat. It was a wonderful goal from Dani Olmo. And you know the worst thing about it? He didn't even get to celebrate. He didn't even get to enjoy for a second scoring such a massive goal in this game because he gets injured. And in some ways, isn't that the most Dani Olmo thing ever? Because you know the thing about Olmo? It almost seems as though the injuries hit him when he's at his best. Because he's arguably had his longest injury-free spells when he wasn't actually playing that well. When he hasn't actually been in such great form. You know, he's actually been available for a decent amount of games this season. But yeah, when he finally starts to hit top gear, he played really well against Alaves, played well against Atletico Madrid, And now he's out injured. You know, he just cannot catch a break. It's really, really cruel and disappointing. And I think with yesterday, there was big concern within the club because it was that shoulder. Obviously, he went down, real pain that he was in. It looked there like some sort of dislocation at the time. And Barca were concerned because when he was at Leipzig, he actually had surgery on that shoulder there. So he has had some problems with that same shoulder as well, the left one. So Olmo there was concern within the club. That's why he went through a lot more tests. You know, Barca were doing a lot of different tests on him this morning and basically deciding where should we go from here. Surgery, you know, an operation, you know, it wasn't completely ruled out by the club, but they have decided here to proceed with more conservative treatment on this one. So Olmo will not undergo any surgery or anything like that. But what it does mean is he's out for a month. And, you know, it's not the end of the world. It's not sort of 3, 4, 5 months. But at the same time, like I say, he's just started to come good. You know, he's just started to hit some form. And he will miss a lot of games, and big ones too. He's got Betis at the weekend. He won't be there for that. He won't be there in the Champions League against Eintracht Frankfurt, not against Osasuna, not away at Villarreal. That's a really big game there. Will he be back in time then for the New Year game away at Espanyol, which Espanyol are playing pretty well right now. To their credit, that's another game that Olmo could potentially miss. And then we go away to the Spanish Super Cup in Saudi Arabia. So Dani Olmo now is going to miss a lot of games. He's going to have to get back up to speed again. It's this constant process, really, of starting to play well, starting to come good, then you're injured, and then it does take him a bit of time to get going again. So it is a difficult situation, it is frustrating, but we wish him all the best, and hopefully he can come back soon. We also do need to talk about Robert Lewandowski, because, well, yesterday it wasn't the best game for him, you know, in fairness, was it? That penalty kick was disastrous, you know, it was really disappointing there to see Lewandowski, who has actually struggled a little bit this season from the penalty spot. And I've got a super thanks coming in right here, questioning maybe if Lewandowski's tried to change a bit too much. You know, he's always had that stuttered run-up, hasn't he? That doesn't always look that convincing, but he seemed to make it work. You know, he seemed to understand when he was doing that run-up, when he was doing that preparation, he was putting the penalties away. You know, has he deviated away from that somehow? And thank you indeed for the great support coming in. So that's something there to bear in mind. But on Lewandowski's future now, there have been quite a lot of reports over the past few days. You know, first of all, we started to hear Lewandowski won't continue at Barca. You know, those are some of the rumours in the media. Maybe Barca have decided not to extend his contract, or at least on the current terms. I think that was always going to be the case. But it's interesting, this morning now we've heard from Sports that Lewandowski has now told the club he's ready to stay, he wants to stay at the club. We know that he wants to stay in Barcelona, in the city, and he will stay with a lower salary and a less prominent role. So he wants to remain at the club, maybe in sort of a leadership kind of role there, maybe he wants to pass on his wisdom, maybe he'd be happy to take a lot less money. And we've spoken about this before, guys. What would you make of that there? Would you keep Lewandowski on as that leading figure in the dressing room, as somebody to help guide the younger players around him? Or is it time to just cut the ties? Is it time to say, look, you've had a great time at the club, a great spell, so many goals, so many incredible memories, but now is the time to completely end it and move on to something new? But I think the big question is always going to be, well, it depends on what's next. It depends exactly on what Barca are planning to do in the number 9 role. You know, if you're not going to bring anybody in, if we can't bring anybody in, well, you probably don't let go of all those goals, those potential goals that he still can score. It all depends on what Barca are able to do in the transfer window. Which then does bring us on to January, the winter window. So obviously now we're not talking about the summer, there's still lots of big decisions that need to be made, but even in January, people were thinking, well, can Barca do something? We've seen Flick struggling. You know, let's be honest here. Flick is struggling with the options that he has, especially when we get injuries. The lack of depth in this squad, it's a concern. And he's still struggled to find that kind of centre-back partnership that he's looking for. Maybe Gerard Martin can be the answer. But is there a chance to do something in January to help our coach a bit? Deco literally says no. Deco says, look, in January, it's difficult. You know, it's tough. It's going to be tough for the club to make anything happen in the winter market. And then Deco goes on to say, I don't think we need to. He said, I don't think we need to sign somebody with the squad that we have right now. Now, I would disagree with that. You know, we don't know what's happening with the club, you know, financially, all of this kind of stuff. We can talk about fair play all day long. But putting that to one side, looking at the squad as it is, it needs work. You know, it needs strengthening because, like I say, you don't want to leave your coach short. Flick is trying his absolute best. He's got a style of play here that he believes in. He's got a style of play that can work at the club. but he does need backing. And I think Flick here, he's going to be looking at the club thinking, please just try and help me. Please just try and help me. He understands the situation. He understands the condition in which he joined the club, of course. But I do just think, Deco here, is there anything that we can do? Is there anything that we can sort of maximise in this coming transfer window? Please help in some way. Do something maybe. But yeah, interesting words there from Deco. But I do think it is very, very interesting right here today, guys, that we do go on to talk about what's happening with Ronald Araujo in some detail, because this is a situation right now that has developed pretty significantly over the past few days, because what we heard from Hansi Flick in the build-up to the Atletico Madrid game was basically Araujo isn't ready to play. He is not in the place right now whereby he can play. Flick basically said, it's a private matter. I don't want to say anymore, and I'm not going to say anymore. That's all that you're going to get out of me. Please respect his wishes right now. And that's what the media were told there in the pre-match press conference. And I've got to say, I think it's very important the club made that statement, made that stance there, because we were told before about a stomach issue with Araujo. That was never really going to fly. I think, as always, the best policy is honesty. It's clarity. It's ultimately telling us fans what is going on. That is where we need to be. We want to be in the light and not in the dark. Now, apparently, Araujo, we know, has really struggled after the Chelsea game. Now, the media have even speculated, and again, the media are sort of guessing at things here. They say maybe he could have been struggling before the Chelsea game. Now, we don't know if that's true, if that was the case. For me, if that is true, he should never have played in that Chelsea game. If he was struggling prior to that, he should never have been involved in the first place. Now, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, so I don't think it's fair here to speculate, but Deco basically said this morning there's no return date set when it comes to Araujo right now. So the club haven't said to him, okay, you need to be back by now. Or Araujo hasn't said to the club, look, I'm going to be back by this game. It's all just very open right now, waiting and seeing. We don't really know how long we are going to be without him. And it's unfamiliar territory. I have personally never experienced anything like this before, whereby a player is effectively just absent from the team. Not with an injury, but from the mental side, which of course is very serious too. You can be struggling mentally, and that can certainly affect your performance here. So this is something that we do have to learn about, and the club, I feel as though they've handled it pretty well so far, given this is unfamiliar territory for them. And look, a lot was said after the Chelsea game. All we can do as fans at the end of the day is focus on the football. We're fans of this club, we're emotionally invested in this club, whether we like it or not at times. And look, we analyse games, we analyse performances. I think criticism, it's part of the game. It's going to happen. When you are a player, you sign up for that. You understand that when you're good, you're going to be praised. When things are not so good, criticism is going to come. But nobody, and let me just repeat this very, very clearly, nobody should cross the line. Because when it comes here to personal matters, mental health, life away from the pitch, this is no joke. This is something very, very serious here that has to be taken seriously. Everybody, and I mean everybody, deserves to find peace mentally. No matter who you are, no matter what your job is, no matter what you're paid, you deserve mental peace and clarity. And I think ultimately right now, the most important thing is give him some space. The media, the speculation, just put it all to an end right now. Take him out of the spotlight. And us as fans, we're going to focus on matters on the pitch. We're going to focus on what the team are doing, trying to grow, trying to improve. Araujo, he's got good people around him. The players are very, very supportive of him. And of course, we wish him all the very best. And so indeed, guys, with all of that said and done, please do let me know your thoughts in the comments down below here on everything we have discussed today. A whole range of topics in today's video. So let me know your thoughts on the Atleti win. Who impressed you? What did you make of Pedri? What did you make of Raphinha? And that Dani Olmo injury, I mean, that was really, really cruel indeed, guys. But yeah, let me know how you're feeling. I will see you soon with more videos. Let's keep this winning feeling going. But thank you indeed for the support. And until next time, as always, Vesca, El Barça.